100 fewer people have been killed or seriously injured on the roads of Wales since a 20-mile-per-hour speed limit was introduced a year ago. That is according to new road traffic data. The Labour MP who led the policy, Lee Water, says it's the most successful road safety intervention in modern times. But the Conservatives say the policy is still confusing and frustrating for drivers. Well, someone who was sceptical of this change to the speed limit when it was first introduced was lawyer Nick Freeman, and he joins us now. Nick, good evening.
Good evening, Claire.
Do the statistics then not speak for themselves? Fewer collisions, fewer deaths. Has that changed your mind on this one?
Not really. I think, first of all, we've got to be very careful about statistics. They can be manipulated to suit an argument. The statistics that I have indicate that there has been a drop of 23% of people killed or seriously injured. So to put that into context, in the last 12 months, 78 people were killed or seriously injured, but that was on 20 and 30 mile an hour roads compared to 101 people before the default 20 mile an hour speed limit. And so that's one point, and that's one of the reasons why we need to be very careful, so that the only way statistics are really meaningful is if we assess the period over a period of time. But I do accept as a basic principle, obviously, the slower you travel, the less likelihood of serious injury, the less likelihood of collision. And I think it's a case of finding the sweet spot. There's another point, and it's this. During the last 12 months, or certainly most of it, since the speed limit was introduced, the Welsh Government have been allowing a tolerance zone for people to travel up to 26 miles per hour and not be prosecuted. So it was people who were travelling at 27 miles plus who were prosecuting. Now, that may not have been for the full year, I'm not sure, but again, it shows how these figures might not necessarily reflect what the true picture is. To get the true picture, we need to look at it over a period of years. I think it's fair to say that if I said to you, look, I can reduce this and improve on it even more, let's reduce it to 10 miles an hour, 5 miles an hour, we need to find the sweet spot, because what we're also told is the cost of implementing this 20 mile an hour speed limit was in fact something like 32 million. And the cost to the economy over the next 30 years is estimated to be in excess of £4.5 billion, which is a significant amount of money for a relatively small economy.
Just explain to us why it would cost the economy that.
Well, because let's take taxi drivers. I use taxi drivers a lot in London, and obviously they're subject to 20 mile an hour speed limits, and they say to me their income, every time I get in a taxi, I talk about it, and their income has fallen by a third. And if you just think about it, well, 20 miles an hour, 30 miles an hour, it's basically a third less. So they're travelling a third less distance. Obviously, in London, they've got electric vehicles, they've got the charging process as well, which takes time. So their income in real terms is down by a third, which is causing massive problems in London. Delivery drivers take a long time. Tourists are disinclined to come to Wales. To put the 20 mile an hour default position speed limit in perspective, 35% of all roads in Wales are now subject to this default speed limit. And many people just say, I can't cope with the stress of travelling. So there's an impact on tourism. There will be an impact on business. So it's looking forward. It's not me who's come up with this figure, but this has been a consistent figure since its inception, which is a massive. In my view, Claire, it's a case of finding the sweet spot.
Okay.
I agree with 20 mile an hour speed limits on a dynamic basis,
right?
Rather than
Okay, because
on a blanket
it's
basis.
really hard to argue, isn't it, when there's fewer deaths and fewer casualties, and I appreciate it's only over a year, and as you say, some of those measurements were made on 20 and 30 mile per hour speed limit roads. But what would you say is the right way forward? Just briefly, if you could.
I would say it should be dynamic and not blanket. So in other words, I think we can achieve a very significant reduction by ensuring that, for example, by schools, hospitals, at certain times of day, there's a 20 mile an hour speed limit, there's no tolerance zone, it's strictly adhered to, and I think that will ensure safety. And then when the road's empty, it's outside those periods of time, allow people to travel at a sensible speed, which would be 30 miles an hour as it has been before. And, you've got something like 500,000 people who signed a petition to try and get rid of it. And it was argued, it was argued in the Senate, I think last Wednesday, I'm not sure whether that was yesterday or the week prior, and it was defeated. So there was a significant movement to try and move back to the 30. I think the sensible approach is a dynamic one.
Nick, thank you. Lawyer Nick Freeman.